Previously on China's rebel city.
Hong Kong's rule of law has been pushed to the brink of total collapse.
個人如果拉唔到或者傷唔到嘅，咁至少都要同佢一齊倒下先得㗎。
What we have done has saved Hong Kong from a far worse fate.
警察話咗開槍係唔可以接受嘅，會繼續嘅。
No more tear gas! No more tear gas! No tear gas! No tear gas!
With no political solution coming from Carrie Lam's embattled and besieged government, disappointment, anger and frustration continue to fuel Hong Kong's social unrest. Public trust in the authorities is at an all-time low, both among protesters on the streets with their unaddressed grievances and those demanding a return to law and order and peace. The anger against the government and Beijing is channeled by the protest movement into the polls, and their candidates, riding on this wave of discontent, achieve a landslide victory at the municipal level district council election in November. The siege of Hong Kong Polytechnic University is still underway as the city goes to the polls. The election is widely seen as a de facto referendum on just how much public support is behind the protest movement. And the numbers make it crystal clear. Opposition candidates seized 392 out of 452 district council seats, trouncing pro-establishment candidates in a stunning rebuke to Lam's governance. But at the same time, the number of votes for pro-establishment parties add up to 1.2 million, compared with 1.6 million for the opposition. Another reflection of a divided society. Christmas 2019. And the protests continue. On the streets and in shopping malls. Glory to Hong Kong, a song born of the protest movement, becomes the anthem of defiance. Patriotic groups opposing the protests hold rival singing sessions, belting out China's national anthem in a musical counter-offensive. Protesters target shops they see as being run by people who oppose them. Shopping malls become another battleground as police go in after them. Like the protesters, police also change tactics, taking more aggressive, often preemptive action to restore law and order. They are led by a new commissioner, Chris Tang, who brings in a bolder, no-nonsense style of policing. The police force is no longer the demoralized and embattled agency struggling to control the protests. Encouraged also by Beijing's vocal support for officers, it hails as heroes. then, on top of everything, comes the coronavirus pandemic. COVID-19, in a city already scarred by SARS, keeps people off the streets. The protests are not over, but they're dying down. Police enforce social distancing rules while getting tougher and more resolute in their crackdowns on protest violence and illegal gatherings. The combined impact on the scale and frequency of protests is substantial. Just a few months ago, Lam's government had invoked emergency powers to ban the use of masks, its targets being the radicals covering their faces to break the law. Now it has to ask everyone to wear masks to save lives. For the first time in 3 decades, police ban Hong Kong's annual candlelight vigil to mark the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square crackdown. But thousands remain defiant, gathering at Victoria Park in the heart of the Causeway Bay business district. Authorities cite the risk of COVID-19, but for protesters and opposition activists, the pandemic is being used as an excuse to suppress them. They have another reason to rally, and it's something far more devastating to the movement, of far more consequence to the city: the new national security law. Just days ahead of the June 4 commemoration, China's top legislative body unanimously passes the national security law for Hong Kong. The new law outlaws acts of secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces. Beijing had left it to the Hong Kong government to end the protest chaos of the previous year. It now decides to step in directly, citing a threat to national security and accusing foreign governments of interference that it can no longer tolerate. News that sweeping new legislation is coming sparks more calls at these protests for independence. The open calls by protesters for US and British intervention, the pleas for punitive action against China, the anti-national slogans, the attacks on the symbols of Chinese sovereignty, all have far-reaching consequences. With Hong Kong now a battleground for the wider political confrontation between China and the United States, already locked in a raging trade war, Beijing decides to act. The new legislation is sweeping and immediately targets acts such as the waving of pro-independence flags and chanting of pro-independence slogans. Vandalism like this can now be considered a terrorist act, and the penalties can be as severe as life in prison. The new law takes effect late into the night of June 30th. Thousands try to protest against it the next day, July the 1st, the 23rd anniversary of Hong Kong's return to Chinese rule. Nearly 400 people are arrested, and, for the first time, 10 are accused of breaching the new national security law. Life under the new law. Many fear the national security legislation will be used to undermine freedoms and stifle dissent. The opposition sees it as the beginning of the end of the one country, two systems policy, under which Hong Kong enjoys a high degree of autonomy. Western governments, led by the US, threaten serious consequences and follow up with punitive action and sanctions against the city and its leaders.
I am directing my administration to begin the process of eliminating policy exemptions that give Hong Kong different and special treatment.
中央今次係堅定不移去進行呢個立法工作。
But both the local and central governments dig in, insisting that the law will be used only to ensure security. They say fundamental rights will be protected by the city's judicially independent courts, and it will be back to business as usual. Amid the conflicting narratives, the city now houses a dedicated national security office with a special police unit to enforce the law. They hit the ground running and have already started taking action. Armed with new legal powers, national security police are now part of the new law enforcement landscape. People are now arrested for acts that they could get away with previously, but are now considered serious crimes. The chaos may be over for now, and the streets quieter, but Hong Kong society remains more divided than ever. Opposition activist Jimmy Sham.
個心會爽一爽，毫無疑問地，我係覺得我應該要放下仇恨。我唔認為仇恨會令到我哋嘅社會進步，但係喺一個社會當中，我都冇辦法去完全清理到自己嘅仇恨。我冇辦法說服話俾我聽嗰班警察只係執行公務。我冇辦法接受到，冇辦法原諒到佢做過嘅事。唯一可以令到呢一種情緒得到安息，就係警察為佢哋行為負擔咗責任。
你係咪人嚟㗎？你根本唔係人嚟㗎！你個仆。
But senior police commander Rupert Dover is unapologetic.
I am not a human rights abuser. There are no burnt villages, there are no mass graves. It's just police officers doing their job, acting in accordance with the law. And I appreciate a lot of the public don't like that. But that's the way it is.
How should Hong Kong move forward? How can it carry on?
實現雙普選先至係令到香港可以穩定嘅關鍵。基本法寫住就係大陸唔可以干預香港一切部門，然之後港人係治港嘅，然之後仲話俾你聽，香港係會循序漸進，最終達至普選。當香港冇真普選，立法會係繼續係會背離民意。當香港冇得選自己嘅特首，我哋嘅特首係會繼續踐踏香港人嘅權利。
Despite all this, longtime opposition politician Martin Lee still has hope.
I am not in despair because I know we are doing the right thing. I know we have the moral high ground because they are breaking agreements, not me. They are doing all these things they promised not to do, and we are just holding them to their contract, if you like.
But veteran pro-establishment lawmaker Regina Ip says Hong Kongers must accept the reality that their city is a part of China.
Hong Kong cannot enjoy two systems without acceptance of the country. So I think Beijing, through all the statements they are putting out, They are reminding Hong Kong people, they're telling Hong Kong people emphatically, you are part of the country. If you want your future to continue as under one country, two systems, you have to respect China's sovereignty, security, and developmental interests. That's how you can continue to carry on.
The Communist Party never wants our community to heal. They want to divide and conquer. But I don't believe our civil servants and our officials want that. They are still Hong Kong people. They know our values. I know in their hearts too they must treasure the same values as we treasure. They may agree to take orders from the communists, but I don't think they enjoy doing all these things to our young people. They too have kids. I don't hate these people. I pity them.
The narratives are different, but most agree on one reality. It's not over yet.
The issues that gave rise to this, perhaps with the exception of the extradition bill itself, the issues haven't really been addressed. When they are, it's going to take a long time to solve them.
For frontline protester Solo speaking to us on condition of complete anonymity, the fight will go on.
我認為香港嘅兩派系嘅撕裂會更加越嚟越大啦，武力嘅程度隨之會增高增多啦。每位嘅同路人、手足抗爭者喺未來嘅抗爭運動裏邊，可以做得幾多嘅嘢，就要繼續去支持自己，去支持其他人去繼續做，令到抗爭可以最大效益化。我相信未來當時機到嘅時候，我哋會喺戰場上面再見。
Deputy Police Commissioner Raymond Siu says when it comes to executing their duties, politics is not a factor.
As a police officer, we need to maintain law and order. We do expect that this will go on again, maybe after the coronavirus is being under control. But of course, we stand ready for that.
I think this is make or break time for Hong Kong. Things are coming to a head. The debate about one country, two systems, the debate about whether Beijing's officers are interfering in our internal affairs, what is the level of our autonomy. These things are coming to a head. These are the core issues.
Although scenes like these are from the past now, Hong Kong remains a troubled city. A politically torn landscape facing an uncertain future as it also struggles with the economic fallout from the pandemic. And the world is watching how China handles its rebel city.